Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Point. It is Monday, March 2nd, and it's right about 9:45 in the morning. I'm here with Pastor Jeff.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. And we got our producer, Damien, with us here as well, so he'll be fact-checking all of the things that you did wrong this weekend.
So probably lots of things.
Should be a quick episode. No. But hey, welcome, guys. Everybody, welcome. Good morning. How's your weekend?
It was good.
Yep.
It was very productive, very busy.
Nice.
So our weekends are really Friday, Saturday for the most part.
Yes.
Since Sunday's filled up here. But on Friday, my brother-in-law came and we had to take it's called a channel drain out of our backyard. And so it's just like a 1.5 inch out of our cement, kind of like you see around pools and stuff. That was a nightmare to get that thing out. It was like glued and I don't know, just cemented in places.
Why'd you have to take it out?
It's just so clogged and there's not really a way to fix it.
Gotcha.
So we had to totally remove that. And then he's going to help me. Actually, I'm leaving early today. He's going to help me finish the backyard. Fill in some cement and stuff. But so that was that. And then went to Cal Baptist University had a carnival. I know, wrong school.
Fail.
I know. I went to Cal Poly that was my bachelor's. Cal Baptist. For a little carnival, and then we ended up going back to Legoland.
Oh, nice.
On Saturday morning. We got to try out a new ride. They opened up a Spaceland, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And then then that night, I was working till like 10 at night outside. Just I had a headlamp on, and I'm like cleaning up the drain and getting it all ready for today.
Yeah.
So
you're doing some work with your patio, right? Is that what that's all about? Yeah.
Yeah, we had to take out our patio cover was just rotting and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So we had some guys come out and demo it. And then I couldn't do that part myself because they were taking out like electrical and bricks and all these things. But the bricks, like these pillars that they removed, it was still like, it wasn't smooth on the ground on the cement. So then we had to rent a tool to break up the cement there. And get all that out, the rebar and all that kind of stuff. So we did that on Saturday, and then today, hopefully finish the job.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Cool, very good.
So busy, but good. And then I got to preach. So that was good.
Good, very good. Yeah, we kind of did a lot of to-dos at home as well. We had, I replaced a window in our living room. First time I've ever replaced a window. I was so proud of myself. It came out fantastic.
Ooh, good job.
I cut out all the stucco around the house. I had to cut all the flashing out. Very old house. Our house was built in 52, and it's when the flashing was attached, the metal flashing was attached to the windows. So it goes out and under the stucco by maybe 4 or 5 inches, something like that. So I had to cut all of that out, and the window had been painted over so many times, and it was just so old and everything. Anyways, so I was like, I'm going to force myself to figure this out, and like 2.5 YouTube videos later, I was like, I got this. Oh, I'm a pro. I figured it out. And I did. I figured it all out.
That's awesome. Good for you.
But it came out good. So now it's just patch it all back up and finish it up. So yeah, I was really proud of myself.
That's good.
Took me all day.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
I took my time.
That's good though. I'm not brave enough to do that at this point. I have 2 awesome brother-in-laws, and I have a really awesome neighbor who's helped us with some different project things.
Yeah.
So I'm good at I'll work really hard. And I'm good at demoing. I'm good at
I can break anything.
I can break anything. But I'll work hard. I love yard work, like you as well.
Yeah.
So I'll get out there. I'll work hard. I'm like pretty good at doing like landscaping or maintenance kind of stuff. But when it comes to like actually like carpentry or building anything, like I don't know. Unless someone's right there showing me like, hey, go do this and I'll work on this. But I need like a foreman or whatever to tell me what to do.
Normally I would avoid, I don't mind
I
trying.
should say my dad too in that list of people who have helped me.
I don't mind trying anything except electrical.
Oh,
that's I'm scared of electric. Even gas I'll finagle a little bit with. Our water heater pooped out on us this weekend. And it said, it has a little flashing light and it's indicator of how many flashes there are, like what's wrong with it. Anyways, it said you need to replace the burner. I'm like, what does that even mean? So half a YouTube video later, I figured out what that was. And it turns out it's 2 screws that you just take out and you disconnect the 2 gas lines from the control unit, whatever that is. But it said replace it. But there was also, if it had 9 flashes, I think you have to clean it. I was like, well, we're just going to try and clean it and see what happens. And we did, put it back in, it worked perfectly fine.
Awesome.
So my house hasn't blown up yet. So.
I know.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good. We just prayed
one
over it.
smoke around the property.
Nothing, yeah. It smells like gas
lighting
really
ma-
good in the house, but it's like,
Don't light any matches. Yeah.
No, it worked out
that's
perfectly
cool.
fine. And so I was like, man, and because I told my wife too, I was like, I'm in this mode for this year. I don't know if it's just I wouldn't call it a New Year's resolution, but I keep telling myself, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Like for an easy example is if the trash is full in the evening, I'm like, well, I'm going to walk out tomorrow morning when I go to the car. I'll take it out then. But I'm like, nope, do it right now. Just go and do it now. The only time that I'm giving myself that extra amount of grace is if it's my day off. If it's a Friday or Saturday,
get some
like I'll be
rest.
like, okay, it's okay to rest here these days. But otherwise, I keep telling myself, do not finish it. And I told Stephanie, I feel like the house heard me say that. And now it's like everything is just breaking, like crack, crack, crack. I'm like, no.
Oh, we'll keep you busy. We got some work for you.
Our cooler started leaking. The window was
no.
busted. The water heater went out. And I'm like, what is happening? So
God was preparing you to not be lazy because you got a lot of work.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's right. Well, anyway,
I never thought you'd be one to be lazy as a label for you.
I try. Well, it's because I tell myself, I try to do a lot of things like 2 for 1, like 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. I'm going out to the car already in the morning, so I'll do it then. I'm trying to be efficient. And it's sometimes to me, I perceive that as you could have just gone and taken that out now and saved yourself the work in the morning. But then that's what I'm thinking. But I see it also as just take it out now. Don't be lazy. Just go. So that's what I'm trying to wrestle with in my mind, like with all these projects, like that basket of laundry, just put it away now instead of doing it later and waiting for it. So I'm trying to get all that done.
It is funny how when you start projects too, and you're like, well, let me fix this. Because that whole drain thing in our backyard, we weren't going to do. We were just going to like fix the cement pillars in that patch. But we're like, well, we're already out here. We should probably take this out now.
Yeah,
but
it always starts one after another.
Then it's
after
other.
another,
Well, look at that. Our fascia needs repainted. And
at first, we have 8 windows in our house, and I was like, that's not a lot. But after I just did this one, I'm like, I got 7 more.
Oh, no. Yeah. I know.
And our house
you'll
is
probably
old.
get quicker.
Well, and they're not standard sizes, though. That's the problem. So I had to reframe the window. That's what made it harder. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So
that's part of like projects we run into at home where like, why did they pick everything that wasn't the standard size? Unless it was different, then I don't know.
Well, in the 50s for our house, for sure it was. Yeah.
Okay.
See, yours I would think would be more standard in the 80s.
But I think the person picked all these oddball like.
They probably YouTubed it too.
I know. I think the guy did a lot of his own work that was not like done by a real contractor and stuff. So we always find little things like, why did they do it this way?
Yeah.
Sorry. All good.
Yeah, that was good. Man, that was a loud beep. Sorry, that was my computer there. Sorry, guys.
Make sure mine's muted.
Well, hey, let's dive in here. Let's take a look at what we got. What we got going on here. Okay, so you started us off. We actually closed the series out, but you started this final sermon in this series called I Can't Afford It. You started by using a really cool illustration. I had never heard of it, but you kind of shared the whole history of it with that of trading up from a paperclip. Within a series of months, it was able to be traded over what started with a paperclip for a full-blown house.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me give a little credit to producer Damien. Because I told him about the illustration. My story was going to originally just be the youth group. Because we did that. I remember I'm like, we did this thing at my youth group where we traded a paperclip. And he's like, that was a real thing. So Damien helped me find the story. So thank you, Damien, for that. But that was crazy. A real thing. A guy traded the paperclip 14 times, like the bigger, better, and ended up with the house.
But it was really, you showed me part of the video in your office, and that was really cool to see that the guy didn't even actually keep the house. He traded up to a house, but then it ended up being some kind of marketing scheme to get people to move into a neighborhood.
Yeah,
like,
so the house,
like there was even it was for it ended up being a community-wide beneficial event.
Yes,
like that is, and what started with just a paperclip. That is absolutely incredible. Anyways, I thought it was really cool. Great example of what had the benefits of trading up, right? We always want to continue to trade up and continue to improve. But so help us understand them before we dive into some of the points here. What does the paperclip story reveal to us about how small things can become significant things when they're used intentionally?
Yeah, I think it's when we take the time to realize the resources we have, there's potential for everything that we already are.
No matter
given.
how small.
Yeah, no matter how small. I think that's kind of the biggest point, because it's easy to think I'm going to be more generous once I get a better job, once I win the lottery. I'm going to serve more in the future when I have more time.
Right.
And to some degree, yes, there's seasons that things are easier. Post having babies in the house or something,
Sure.
that's a harder season probably to get out for parents to go and give a ton of time to serving or something. That makes sense. But start with the time and the resources that you have right now. And part of that's also, we get in the habit of building up. If we get in the mode of using the resources we already have, then as those resources grow, then the impact will grow. Kind of as those are growing, then we're already in the mode of investing appropriately. Then it's just going to like expand from there, I think.
Yeah. I like the idea of the impact also exponentially growing with that. That's really important. Yeah. So why do you suppose Jesus would use a parable about money of all things? And we'll get to your points here in just a second, but why do you think Jesus would use a parable about money to describe the kingdom of heaven?
Well, he used a lot of different analogies to describe the kingdom of heaven as you look at the different parables, mustard seeds and other things. But I think in this example, he's talking about the value of it. And so he's given us stuff now that is impacting a current and a future kingdom. And so it's all about the resources, the value. And so there's an investment to be made now. I mean, even at the end of the parable, he says, he mentions, you've been faithful with a little. Now I'm going to give you more to manage. And so part of me thinks that's a now. There might be aspects in heaven, or maybe it's in the millennium or something that we're given more responsibilities at a different time in the future when Christ returns. But it seems that I think he wants, with all these parables, to realize there's an impact now, and then there's an eternal impact to come. And I think that's the like full celebration aspect.
Right.
Thinking about the mustard seed, the kingdom of light or the yeast, you put yeast in bread and it expands. The kingdom of God is like that. But that the expansion of it happens this side of heaven. And so there's an investment to be made now as the kingdom. It's intended to be growing.
Right.
And so I guess the investment, or if it's the yeast or if it's a mustard seed, it's all about his intention is for more to come with his kingdom. And we have an opportunity to be used in that process of growth and good things happening. Yeah. So, would you add anything to that?
I really liked how because the whole one of the things to me that has always stood out about this parable is what Jesus says to the good servants, the faithful ones at the end. You've been faithful with a little, so now you'll be entrusted with more. You're going to have more. Come and share in your master's happiness and so forth. But I loved how you brought the context. You kind of brought it into perspective. Even the lazy and wicked servant, he was working with what you gave the equivalent of about $1 million worth of value. And that is the smallest amount that we see of the three servants, right? 5, 2, and 1.
Right.
So if he
Still
had
bag of gold.
If he had $1 million worth of, let's just say $1 million worth of gold, the other guy had double that. He had 2 million. The other guy had 5 million. Let's just call it that. That's what God considers a little, because he's talking to the faithful servants. He says, you've been faithful with a little.
Yeah.
So I think it helps us understand, it helps us view money as from God's perspective. $5 million is a little bit for God. Like because it's not the treasure that we see it to be. God sees it in a different way and he uses it differently. Which, and in light of all that, I think that kind of brings us perfectly into point 1 here, because we see a lot of how God would use something versus the way we value things, right? So with that,
to comment on that briefly, so many of Jesus's miracles are about abundance.
Correct.
Turning the water to wine. It's like these 5 large gallons. The miracle of expanding the bread to feed 5,000 people. It's like he could take little and do so much more
right.
with anything that he
Right.
gives to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So your points all hinged off of the idea that all that I have been given, all that I've been given, and it's very important that we perceive it that way. All that I've been given should be, number one, invested for Jesus. So we looked at the parable there. You read it all up front, but we've got 3 servants, one who gets 5 bags of gold, one who gets 2, and one who gets 1. And so they're all entrusted with something. Now you open that up a lot more, and I love the 7 examples that you gave of things that we've also been entrusted with beyond just the finances, or I guess 6 other ones. You said creation. We've been entrusted with creation. We've been entrusted with our bodies, with time, relationships, gifts and talents, the gospel, and of course, money and treasures, the thing we consider of value. So it makes sense that we would invest money and gifts and talents and so forth. How would we invest something like creation?
Yeah, I think it's, are we leaving things better for future generations? I mean, and that's, I think, a good principle in general. Are we leaving things better than we found them to pass on to others? And maybe that's like the work that we started.
Okay.
But I think for creation, it's, are you caring for, I mean, people could follow their own convictions in this, but I think, are you being thoughtful about not being so wasteful about everything? Are we, are you just like always collecting and everything ends up in the trash? Or are we thoughtful about, hey, let me recycle, let me live a simple life and not always have to have the newest things so everything else becomes trash? Or if I take care of my things, can I give those away to others? Like, is there a way that I, if it's technology or whatever, like my equipment that I have, do I care for that so that could be passed along? I think my parents always have done a really good job taking care of their house. And so they've just like cleaning and, vacuuming their carpet every day and stuff so that it lasts a long time. And so I think even just caring for the things we have is going to mean less waste in landfills and other things. Taking care of animals, I think, like, are we having a clean environment? I try not to go too much into like global warming and all these crazy, like, our carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Like I personally don't,
Sure.
I personally don't like obsess about those things, but I do think, is there just a thoughtfulness to how I'm treating the world around me? Littering is one of the things that's super frustrating to me. Like, don't just throw your trash out, bring it over to a trash can and make sure. So it's just like keeping the space around us clean and thoughtful. So if Christ doesn't return for another 2,000 years, that my great grandchildren have an opportunity for a clean and healthy world around them. To me, that's just what is my small part in managing that well and being faithful, knowing that those are all things that God has given us as a gift.
And we can follow that same model with all the rest of these. Those are obviously really good examples of that. Cool. Very good. So do you think that we as Christians, we can often underestimate just how much God has actually entrusted to us? Because if we're supposed to invest that, obviously it's because God has entrusted that to us. Or do you think that we at times often perceive some of the things as simply ours? This was mine. God didn't give this to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to both of those things. Do we underestimate what we have? Yes. And that's just easy to do because we compare to people around us.
Sure.
Like, when I look at these other people, I'm living with a lot less money. I don't have the skills that they have. I don't have this so that's why comparison is so dangerous. We've shared this before, but I want to say Rick Warren shared this quote. He said, when we compare ourselves to others, we either build ourselves up with pride or we tear ourselves down in a way that God doesn't want us to view ourselves. So it's like comparing is always just a bad idea, but it's so easy to do. And I think as we do that, we'll naturally see people that are ahead in different areas. And then that causes us to underestimate sometimes the things that we are given, the resources we have. The other thing you asked was, do we think certain things are just ours? Absolutely. And I have, and I still struggle with that at times. It's like, I don't want to give this money away. I want to keep, so it's hard. I think it takes a real intentionality to stop and think all of this comes from God. And so I'm just a manager passing through what does he want me to do with these things. I don't think we have to be super legalistic about it, but at least time to time pausing and reflecting on those different areas we covered.
I guess so. How would you suggest that practically we shift our mindset? Because that's been a lot of what we talked about throughout this series is changing the mindset from scarcity to abundance. So how do we shift our mindset to go from a this is mine to I've been entrusted with this? And I think a prime example of that is I would say any day of the money that I have earned, like, hey, this is my money, I earned it. But I've also developed enough of a maturity as a follower of Christ to understand the Lord has entrusted me with this. It's not really mine. But where it really hits home is when I consider my kids. Mm-hmm. So help us understand. How do we go from this is mine to this has been entrusted?
Well, I think I would almost take these 7 areas, and there's probably others. I said that's not an exhaustive list of the things that we steward, but those are a good starting place. I would encourage people to spend some time in prayer and reflection. I think if you think the Lord's Prayer, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done. There's a starting point, your stuff first. So just thinking like God's first, and then comes the ask, give me today my daily bread, not my fortunes for the day. So kind of just, to me, I think talking to God, maybe surrendering it out loud. Like, Jesus, all that I have is yours. I know these are from you. I know that these have been given to me to manage. It's hard. Our spouses, our children, that's so hard to think, but they belong to God. I mean, and even biblically, you think about your children. The model from Genesis is at some point, your boys and your daughter will be given potentially to a spouse, right? If the Lord has for them.
That?
Huh?
Why would you say that?
Leaving and cleaving. Are you mad at me?
That's just hurtful. Why would you say that?
I know.
Happy to bring it up.
Yeah. Well, I just prepare your heart.
7 years old.
I know.
We don't need to talk about that right now.
Well, when they're 45, they'll be giving away marriage now. But there's a time. I mean, it's hard, but that's the reason I think the principles needed, the leaving and cleaving. That there's a time your children go on to have their own families, and of course there's a relationship, but it changes. I think it's important to think about it because our family, our money, all of those things can be an idol to us. And sometimes we think that we love them more than God, or but God loves them even more. That's as crazy it is to think about the way that we love our wives and our kids. Single wife each. I love my wife. You love no polygamy. I love my wife. I love my children, and you love your wife and children. It's crazy to think anyone will love them more than we do. But God does, and they belong to Him first. And so we have that takes a surrender, I think, in our heart, and just a recognition, like, Lord, thank you for entrusting them to me. Yeah. I know that they're yours first, and so I'm going to trust you no matter what happens.
I think for me, the practical side of that, in trusting that my kids have been entrusted to me, is I don't remember who it was who said it, but it's the only way that it's always been so impactful for me. The only thing that I have any possibility of taking with me to heaven are my kids. And to me, that puts a huge amount of, it's just a huge amount of reflection that, hey, I can't take my money with me. I can't take my house with me. I'm not taking my car with me. I'm not taking my sandals with me. I'm not taking any of that. But I could possibly take my kids with me if I properly invest in them. If I take this principle and legitimately invest in them and train them up in the ways of the Lord, teach them to love the Lord, to honor the Lord, to fear the Lord, to follow the Lord, to live for the Lord. If I train them up in that, then I know I have properly invested in their lives. And obviously, ultimately, I'll have to trust that they commit their lives to the Lord. But if my wife and I live proper examples, like, it's almost a set path for them if we continue to model for them and show them. And that to me is a huge what's that word I'm looking
incentive?
For? Kind of incentive, but it puts
responsibility.
It really puts that burden on me to, hey, this is not something they were just given to you for you to raise and send them out. It's You want to see them again, properly invest in their lives now.
Yes.
Begin to train them up in the ways of the Lord so that you can see them again, so that the kingdom impact is ultimately multiplied by more people coming into the kingdom, including my 3 kids. Like I want to see them there. So that for me, that's a very, very practical thing to do to have that kingdom impact, to properly invest, to going from these are mine to I've been entrusted with this.
And it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Those are the most precious things to you. It's hard, but it's just I think saying out loud and recognizing, like at the end of the day, they belong to God, and all that I have belongs to God first. Saying it out loud, I think, more often, and telling him that you understand that will help us, I think, to be able to internalize it.
Right. Now, you also mentioned at one point in the sermon, I don't remember if it was point 1, but it tied well in here. You mentioned, obviously, God wants us to have fun in life. It's not all about just, hey, invest kind of thing. So where is the line, if there is, in fact, a line between what it looks like to enjoy God's blessings and using them for kingdom impact?
Yeah. There's not a black and white answer to that. I think it's each person needs to pray through that and think through it. And I think God gives us some grace in a little bit of the gray area, if you will. I would say just think through I think it's important to pause at times and think through how much are we spending just for joy and for things. Has that become excessive? Is that taking away from other money that I would be giving elsewhere? But to me, it sometimes those are investments in other things. I mean, I brought up, I said we went to Legoland again. We bought passes this year, which some people would be like, that was a waste of money. You could have given that to the church or this or that. But for us, for my family, that was an investment in relationship time and fun with the kids. We work a lot of hours. I'm gone a couple nights a week. And so for us, it's like there's a time that we could be away from the house and distractions of, oh, let me go clean this, or let me take a call, or let me go on my computer or whatever. So it's like for us, that's been helpful to go. We're completely away. We're just there enjoy. Like there's a time to just enjoy each other's company, have some fun, and it's blesses my kids. Sure. And so I would just think about those things. Vacations, same kinds of things. Investing in some hobbies. It's like and part of that too is also kind of an investing in our bodies in a sense of here's my time to rest, or here's my time to what's the word? Like exercise helps you to kind of get out de-stress. I guess de-stressing and other things just to kind of get that energy. People's hobbies, that kind of stuff helps them with that. So I think all things in balance. It would be good to pause at times and just think, am I like pouring a ton of money into this other area that could, and it's all about just myself? Is it like for my family, and am I taking too much away from God? So and if you like really feel like I really don't know, then I maybe invite a couple trusted Christian brothers or sisters in your life that you could ask, hey, do you think I'm doing too much of this or too much of that? I want to be faithful. You could ask a couple trusted people who could just be real with you.
So that's
give you some balance.
That's one extreme there. Let's quickly look at the other side before we move on to the second point here.
Yeah.
Let's say I don't have an exorbitant amount of debt. I'm not irresponsible with my money, but I am living paycheck to paycheck. So I'm working. I'm raising my kids. In doing that, am I actually investing for Jesus? I think skating by.
I would encourage people, if they're not pausing to think about it and taking some time to evaluate it, I would encourage them to do so. Are you faithful with what God has been giving you? I mean, some people are probably in situations, it's like they really don't have another opportunity to increase their income without taking away negatively from something else. There's a time to work really hard and sacrifice, but maybe for some families, they're like, I don't want to work a second job because what's more important is that time with my kids. Another season, maybe it is appropriate for someone to take on more work or to go back to school so that they could advance in their career. And so, again, I would say pray through that and look to see, are there ways that I could better do this so that all the resources I have, including money, can go further to have a better impact for the kingdom. So,
awesome.
Would you add anything to
No,
that?
I think that's a great, I think it's really good. I think the key question was the first one you asked. Am I, oh gosh, how did you just word that? You said, am I faithful with what I've been given?
Yeah.
Yes, there it is. I think that's
the
key question
to all of
there.
it.
It's not a matter of your life should look so busy or so much movement needs to be taking place. The fundamental question is, are you being faithful with what you've been giving? Because investing in your children, I think that is investing in the Lord. That's to be faithful and steward well the lives of your children, to be faithful and steward well your job. Again, if you don't have all this debt, but you're managing well the amount that you have, it doesn't matter if it's $1 million or $10 at the end of the day when you've paid your rent and your bills and you've got $10 left. How are you going to manage that? Are you doing it well? Are you being faithful with that? If you are, 100%.
Yeah. What are priorities for you this season and stuff?
Yeah.
And I would encourage our listeners too, and remind myself of this: be gracious to others that they may operate different than you and your family. And that's so before we're quick to just judge and be like, well, they should do things this way.
Right.
Like maybe there's a reason that they're doing things the way they are because they need to invest in things a little differently. So
cool. Very good.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to number 2 here. You said all that I've been given will be, we said already, invested. So this one is all that I have been given will be evaluated by Jesus. Now that's a very sobering thought.
It is.
That really kind of gets your attention. But the way the parable proceeds here is the master disappeared for a little bit. He had entrusted everything to his servants, 5 bags, 2 bags, 1 bag. Now the master's back. And he is calling them out. He's calling for accounts. Hey guys, what have you done with everything I gave you? This is the time for evaluation. So here's the question: How does it, or should it, for that matter, how should the idea of being evaluated by Jesus challenge our way of life today, or even how we, what's a better way to word that? Well, let me just start there. How should that affect the fact that we're going to be evaluated? How should that affect our way of living?
I think it goes to the idea that we need to be prepared for that. I think I just was evaluated for ordination. So I planned to be able to present my best self, honest self, but I had to put in work knowing that it's like, I know I'm going to be evaluated on these things. I need to be able to answer theological questions well. So I need to study up for that. I know that I'm going to be examined in my my walk with Christ. And so there's an added incentive, if you will, to have integrity and to be faithful. I should do those things anyways, yes. But I'm also knowing lots of eyes are on me. And even as a pastor and stuff, it's lots of eyes are on us, which is, I think, the reason Paul says you need to be above reproach.
Right.
And so there's incentive to make sure, I need to make sure my personal walk with Jesus is solid. So, and there's several other areas and stuff about health and calling and other things. But I knew I need to be prepared to answer those questions because I'm being interviewed. In the same way that someone's interviewed for any job. Why are you the best candidate for this role?
Right.
I need to go in and be able to make a case for that.
Right.
And I can't just fluff it all. I need to actually make sure I have the skills and the ability, and then also be able to communicate those things.
Right.
And so I would say knowing that we're going to be evaluated should give us an incentive to make sure, hey, let me make sure that I have, I'm growing in those skills. I have the best resume, if you will, of life to be able to say like, hey, look at, I was faithful and I did do these things.
Yeah.
So just knowing that, I think, gives us a little kick in the butt.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a good example is, would you ever go to a doctor that did not pass his exams?
Right.
No, not at all. Because
exactly.
that means you're not a very good doctor. Like unless you've, and not to say that we're being tested, but unless you are to a certain degree, I would be confident enough to say you cannot be trusted with something. I wouldn't trust you with my children's lives, with my life, with my health, with my wife's health. I wouldn't trust you with that until I know you've done this. That doesn't speak to the character of the person. It just says the quality of this, that if you're not good at investing, let's work on that, and be mindful of those things. So that I would encourage everything that appreciate everything that you're saying as well with all of that. It's 100%.
It's funny. Speaking of actual financial investing, we have a couple different like accounts that we've put money in, including like retirement and stuff. And there's two or a couple that have really grown over the years and stuff. There's another that I put money into that barely yielded anything. It's almost the starting value. And guess what we're going to do? Move that. Like, we're done with that organization. We're transferring it to somewhere else. Because it's like, that didn't do anything that was wasted in a sense. And so if we want to give it to the investors that actually want to do something with the money. So it's funny. It's like, that's exactly what God does.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
you wasted that.
So would it be fair to say, in light of that, would it be fair to say that God is expecting from us measurable results? Or is it just the effort?
Well, God's always, his primary thing is he's looking at our heart. He's looking at what we did with it. I don't think it's just the results, because a lot of times, I think of, for example, there's some small churches that are very faithful. Their pastors and their people are faithful. Both of us came from small churches. Your parents are pastors. From my observation, I would say yours as well. They're faithful. They love their people. They taught well. And there's lots of churches like that. But, if we were just to go on the metrics of, how's your church grown? How many baptisms have you had? How many people are coming now? What's your, how much has your giving increased? How many people, like, no. So the numbers and certain measures are not everything. But I would also say there's scripture about being known by our fruit.
Right.
And there should be evidences, but I would encourage people to look for that may appear in different ways. Right. So like for the church example, the fruit is in how people are living their lives and sometimes impacting outside of those church walls. Right. They have actually loving families. Their marriages are strong. They're, people in the church are pouring into their kids. They're generous. They're sharing the gospel with others at work. They're working with integrity. So there's other metrics of like a healthy people at the church. So that goes, I think, in all of those different areas, creation, all of them that we steward. It may appear in different ways than we're expecting, but the fruit of the Spirit, which is, I think, the thing God cares most about: love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, self-control. I feel like I missed one or two of them, but
probably.
God is primarily looking at the heart. There should be some evidences, though, of faithfulness in other areas.
Gentleness.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you missed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm like saying it in my head.
Yeah.
So I guess I would word it this way. The fruit of the Spirit in our lives, which I totally agree with what you're saying, the fruit of the Spirit in our lives is not always a measurable result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you measure gentleness?
Correct. and part of what it means to invest means you may not be around to see the result.
Yeah,
so
that's a great
if you're going to invest in something, like my wife and I just bought an apple tree, this weekend, because I didn't have enough projects to work on. So we just bought an apple tree, but am I going to see fruit from it right away? No. It may take a couple years to see some apples on that tree, but it's going to take some time. We're investing in that. So I would argue that it is strictly the heart behind it, which is exactly what you started. It's the effort that goes into it, because that's what God's looking at. I want to be as generous as I can. I want to invest as much as I can, but I also need to be responsible. I need to be a good steward. I need to do all these things. So the fruit of the Spirit is not always a measurable result, but also investment means I may not see the results right away. So we need to trust God with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think of even with the church story, the pastors and leaders that invested in us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Yes.
know, and so it's some of the, I would say, the fruit of, whatever good comes out of the ministry we're doing and teaching and other things. That is, we're branches off of those others who poured into us, and them probably from people before them.
Yeah.
So you think of just how far that extends. Maybe those churches were small, but now they're impacting hundreds of people. And
So those are great examples of the good and faithful servants who went out and invested. What would it look like today? What is a modern example of what a lazy servant would look like today? Someone who hid the talent, the gold, someone who buried it. What would it look like?
I think someone that I guess financially could be someone that's just all their money immediately goes to themselves.
Okay. Does that mean somebody who doesn't tithe? Somebody who doesn't do offerings?
I think so. If it's not going to help any other person, you say, or it could be wasted gifting and skills.
Okay.
I remember this one guy that I worked with years ago, and I was working at Red Robin. He's like, yeah, I know.
Red Robin.
Yeah, Red Robin, yum.
We're not sponsored by that.
I know.
But we'd like to be.
Yeah.
No.
I know. If you want to
Bonsai
sponsor,
Burger.
Yeah, there you go. I remember this guy. He's like, yeah, I'm called to be a youth pastor, but I don't know if I really want to. So it's like he felt like God put that in his life. He wasn't a nice person, which I thought, maybe I think first we're called to have the fruit of the Spirit and to be loving and like, but I don't know where that guy, I worked with him a short time, so I pray that he's well and went on and invested, and if he really felt that God called him. But we may have ability to do things, but we never give that to actually bless other people.
Right.
We could encourage, but we don't. We withhold that. We could teach, or we couldn't, share something, and we just keep it to ourselves. So I think that there's just lots of different ways we could waste.
Self-control was the other one you missed.
Self-control.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you, Damien.
Gentleness and self-control.
There we go.
Maybe I need to work on those things.
That was good.
Good find.
Sorry, you just sent that in. Yeah, that's good. I think selfishness is very evident if what that would look like today. If I were to categorize it to one word, it would be selfishness.
I agree.
I think that's what I wouldn't go as far as to say someone who is quote unquote conservative. I don't mean that in the political realm, but I mean conservatives as in reluctant to fearful of the risk, fearful of the investment, that kind of conservative, right? I don't think that is, because I think that can also be good stewardship at times. Like, that doesn't look like a good investment.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold off.
Right.
But I mean, when it's selfish, like, I don't want to give up. Back to your point, I want it all for me, and that doesn't benefit me in any way. So I'm not going to invest. That's where I think that would.
And I would, to speak to the financially conservative, I would, because that would probably be has been more of my my MO or whatever. A couple things I would challenge us is the scripture. Jesus says, "Don't store up those barns or those storehouses with." There's a man who just poured into all of that, never gave to anyone. Yeah. Now, how do we balance that? We want to have. I give towards retirement. I want to have something to live on after retiring at some point to help my children and to not have to burden them. But that could become excessive, where I've just stored so much up that I'm
planning
not giving
for the future
to others.
is one thing. Hoarding for the moment is another.
Right. And so I'd be cautious, or just like so controlling of my money that I don't want to give to others unless I think it's a worthy investment.
Not generous.
It's a risk giving to others.
Sure
but
is.
I think even as a church, we've been able to help some people. We hope that helped them so that that gives them the help they need to get reset, and then they're able to be responsible moving forward. Probably some have been able to, others have not. So it's always a risk, but we prayerfully do the best thing to, hey, we want to give someone an opportunity to get back on track so that they could be in a better place and be healthy.
Cool. Very good. All right. For the sake of time here, let's move on to our last one. Your last point was all that I've been given, and this is another sobering statement, may be. So there's a question here. It may be celebrated with Jesus. There's an uncertainty there. And I liked how you posed it in there that a lot of this has to do with our side of the equation here, what it is that we do. And so as it falls into the parable, the masters come back. He's called out all the servants. He's asked for an account of everything that they've done. But at this point, what he's doing now is he is judging the servants accordingly. Based off of the accounts you've given me, here's your judgment, here's your judgment, here's your judgment, right? Here's what happens to them. So is it possible? Would you say that this parable, even though Jesus is talking, he uses the money example to speak of the kingdom of heaven, but is it possible that there's a secondary application here that Jesus is referring to heavenly rewards, or is it that he is referring to our salvation?
Possibly. Heavenly rewards or awards. Which one is it?
Rewards.
Rewards.
Yeah.
I always mix them up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Heavenly rewards. I think there's an aspect of there because it is to the celebration point. They've now invested. It seems to be the end. So there is an element of heaven in this. And Jesus, I quoted earlier in the sermon or at some point, I talked about storing up for yourself treasures in heaven.
Right.
And so there is what we do this side of heaven impacts what we will receive in heaven. As far as a salvation, I don't know that the parable would be primarily speaking to salvation. I think there's a hint of it in there. That third servant, he says, send them outside, cast them outside to where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
That's verbiage that's often used to describe what hell will be like. It's a place that's so awful. It's just a darkness, and it's just a suffering. And so that is pretty sobering that's the fate of a servant, someone who knew the master or at least had an opportunity. So I think we could glean some of that theology in there as well. But to my point of that compared to also the one with the sheep and the goats, that's the following parable. I don't think that, I don't think that we're condemned to hell if we improperly steward the things that God has given us. I mean, we're saved by grace through faith in Jesus Christ. So I think there'll be some in heaven who wasted so much of their life, but are still saved because they did trust in Jesus and that. It's a fine line, though. Faith in the Bible. I don't know if our lives are as cleanly separated. I'm trying to think how I could say this. I think James talks about show me your faith without works. They go together in a sense. I don't know if we could separate them as much as sometimes we think we can. We're saved by grace through faith, but then that faith should then produce some fruit. So we trust in Jesus, but then as we're trusting in him, walking in faithfulness with him, there should be things along the line that show evidence of that faith in him. If I trust Jesus, my life should reflect that in different areas.
But if Jesus dies for our sins, why does our faithfulness matter? If that covers it all.
Sure. Well, he died to release the chains of sin in our life. He died. Part of that is he's freed us so that we could live the lives that he purposed us to have. So the fullness of that carries out the greatest thing that he did was remove us from hell so that we could be with him for eternity. But we have life now and forevermore. A lot of times we jump to just the forevermore. Okay, sure. I'm in heaven. Yeah. But he also gave us life now not to be bound by the chains of sins and afflicted unnecessarily because of the sins in our life. Yeah. But he's freed us up to be able to have a life in Christ where we're walking with God. We don't see the fullness of the being in the garden again yet, but Christ is dwelling in us, the Holy Spirit in us. And so there is there's a new life now. And so faith, I think, is we put our faith in the one who is faithful, but we're also called to be faithful ourselves, to follow and to trust him. And that's the life that God designed for us. He freed us up so that we might live that way.
Yeah, that's good. So when you wrapped up the sermon, I loved how you tied it all back together with the paperclip again. You tied communion saying that, so Jesus gave his life as a trade, just as this gentleman in the beginning gave the paperclip for a house.
Yes.
Jesus says, I'll give my life for yours, right? In exchange. So what does it mean to accept that trade, Jesus's life for mine? What does that mean for us today? What does it look like?
Well, first, thank you for you gave me the idea of bringing the paperclip back in for the ending.
That's why it was master class. Yeah.
What's that? What'd you say?
I said that's why it was a master class ending. So
I know.
Good.
Yeah, that was good. So what was the question about the trade? Sorry.
Yeah. What does it mean to accept that trade? What does it look like to accept Jesus' life for ours?
Is he laid down his life so that we can have life.
Yeah.
And so there's a point that we have to receive that. Yeah. We acknowledge that that he is enough. We trust him that he was able to satisfy the punishment that belonged to me,
right.
So that we can have forgiveness. And so what does that trade look like? It also means, though, he wants our life,
right?
Because it's not just like, okay, I'll take that gift.
Right.
He wants us.
Right.
So the exchange is not even.
Mm-hmm.
He gives us his full self, but then he also wants us to give ourselves to him. Mm-hmm. And so that's, I think, the important part of, like, now I'm trusting you. Now I belong to you.
Right.
In the same way that he belongs to us.
Yeah.
So
cool. All right. You, I'm going to just close out with one little thing here. You mentioned, you brought up some of the stuff that we were able to help out with, specifically with some of the high school students here in our local district. And we just want to say thank you to you guys, to the church specifically, because I know we did do a fundraiser at the end of the year, our Kingdom Builder. Yes, a lot of that assistance that we've been able to help out with what we did with Run to Rescue earlier in the year, what we did even now, that's been a big significant part of that, and it's been what has allowed us as a church to say we can't afford to not be generous, and it is because we've been able to a certain extent budget this kind of generosity to help out in our community, to be a resource to our local community. So thanks for pointing that out, to just what it looks like practically to say, we've got the resources, let us help you to a capacity. I mean, we can't meet every single need, of course, but thanks to you guys, to the church, for your generosity and allowing us to be a light into this community, and with the needs that they have, specific with the needs of high school students. That was really awesome. So, hey, any closing thoughts for us today?
No, I mean, I would probably just, I think the thesis statement is be faithful with what he's given you.
Yeah.
And think about that holistically. Yeah. There's so many things that God has blessed us with to be able to bless him back and to be able to bless others. Yeah. It's really about the great commandment, love God, love people. With what I've been given, all these different areas, what's the most loving thing back to God and others?
Yeah.
So
cool. Very good. Yeah. I like how you asked the question in the sermon. You said, at some point you asked the question, what would it look like for us to give an account to Jesus in there? So I guess I would leave you guys with a comparable question. You know, if Jesus returned today, what would you be excited to show him about on those accounts? Or would there be something that we need to explain? Right.
Yeah.
So what would we be excited for? So, hey guys, thanks for joining us today. Just make sure you like and subscribe wherever it is that you're listening or watching, whether it's on YouTube or whether you're watching on Spotify or Apple podcasts on there, or if you're watching on the app, wherever it is. And if you got any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free and email us, podcast@centerpointchurch.church. We'd love to engage with that and answer any of those questions. But thanks again. Great job this weekend. Appreciate it. And best of luck with your patio.
Oh, thank you. God bless.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.